So the first one is explaining a misconception, and I think a misconception is something that you view that might not be right based on your prior knowledge or not knowing anything at all. And then my first example is that lightning will never strike in the same place twice, and my second one is there's a dark side of the moon. Both of those are wrong, but a lot of people think that because they might not have the knowledge or just know anything about it, but like you don't see the max of the moon, so you think it's dark, but really it's not. So then the second question is how will you leverage students' misconceptions? I want to use all of these misconceptions as a learning experience. I want to be able to use their failures and things that they're wrong and build off of it, so that way we can learn from it and have them experiment with things and go off of that. So that's the first part for misconceptions. The next is progression of standards. I don't really know what the third one means, to be honest, so I feel like you can't, only thing I could think of is like you can't learn without progressing from something before. So you can't learn about like plant cycle if you don't know about what a cycle is, or the water cycle first, then plant cycle, then human, or something like that. Like you have to go off each other, so that way you're not just like math, you're not jumping into division. You learn how to add, subtract, multiply, then divide, so then you know all four and can go off of that. For number 4, I'm going to use one of my lessons I did for my unit plan for this. Oh, just kidding. Actually, that's the next one. But this one, the standard for 5 PS1-3 is the standard is use models to describe the energy in animals and food. Animal food was once energy from the sun. So I think the prior to the standard, they'll know about energy transfers, the speed of energy, how energy transfers through different things. Then afterwards, they'll be able to know like real life example with an animal from the sun and animals, so that way it's more real life to them and not just maybe learning, but more like they actually know with like an animal example. Then this is the one I got confused about. The 5E learning cycle, I'm going to use my own lesson plan to explain this. So so my lesson standard was 4LS1-1, so it's construct an argument that plants and animals have internal and external structures that function to support survival, growth, behavior, and reproduction. So engagement, this gets the students' attention and get them to know what they're learning about. So for my lesson, I was going to watch a video and then have discussion questions so they can go off of that. And then it leads into the exploration stage, which this is where they do the experiments and fail. This allows them to have further learning opportunities from their failures. And it's also a really hands-on thing, so it's fun, but also they might fail or might not get it 100% correct, so you can go off of that. And mine, they'll be given a specific, or they'll have to research biomes, and then they're given one of them, and they're going to have to research it and understand the location and the animals in it, so then they can go deeper into the standard. Explanation, this is where they explain what they're doing and learning and go in more depth. So in my case, we're going to have biomes, and the students are going to have to find out an animal and create their own adaptation that they might need in that environment. So maybe in a cold area, have more fur and a heat builder inside them or something silly like that. But then during this explanation stage, you're going to meet with me as their teacher, so we can walk through their stuff and go in depth with their learning, make sure they're on the right track, and just kind of understand everything. Then the elaboration, this is where the learning really happens, and they learn to understand it. So they're going to do this through a project. So they're going to, I don't remember what I put in it, but they have a project, and they're going to have to work on it, and then have their animals so that they can get ready to present to the class, which is the evaluation stage. So I'm handing out a rubric beforehand to the students, and they will have to present to the class their adaptation and their biome and everything they learned about it throughout this whole unit. And I'll be grading them on the rubric, which they've already been given, because that way they know what's expected of them. 6 is the engineering design process. So the first part is to define a problem. This is where there's a problem given to the students, and they'll have to work through it for the rest of the project. The second stage is plan solutions. With the problem they're given, they need to come up with solutions that might help solve the problem. But then the third step is make a model. So that's where they'll put it into action, and they're going to maybe learn how to stop rainfall from coming in a house or something silly like that. And so that's where they're kind of designing it. And then they're going to test it. So maybe they made a cardboard box, and I'll come around and pour water on it and see if it leaks or not. And then if it leaked, that's where they'll have to go for the last stage, which is reflect and redesign. They'll reflect on what was wrong and be like, oh, paper doesn't hold water, so it leaked through. And then lastly, I think the 5Es was a lot of fun. I didn't have any issues with it. I just think the only thing I would do would be to make it 2 people instead of 4. That way it's more hands-on and you get more time to learn. Because I know in my group we had one student who talked most of the time and the rest of us didn't get as much opportunity. So if we made it a 2-person project, then yeah. Other than that, it was a good semester. So thank you.